One of the worst things that I witnessed was because of the lack of resources in Puerto Rico, the lack of food and the lack of water provided by FEMA, was that families were being broken up. And what I mean by that is that the families that were unable to sustain themselves because of the lack of resources of food and water, they basically had to hand their children over to the state. They were basically handing their children over to, let's say, for like DIFUS, simply because they couldn't provide enough food, enough water, and they had no shelter for their own children. So they basically had to just hand their kids over to the state, and hopefully that the state of Puerto Rico would be able to take care of the children because they simply didn't have enough resources to maintain. It's been 1 year since Maria, and I think that we're no better off than where we were from a year ago. According to some hearings, they were supposed to update the system in Puerto Rico and create some rule standards, as opposed to there were basically no or minimal standards in Puerto Rico at the time. And the problem is everybody's wondering who's going to pay for it. You know, they're supposed to upgrade the system. They're supposed to create the system so that it's safer, it's more reliable, and update the system. But the problem is who's going to pay for it, who's going to do the job, and nobody wants to step up and take care of that. And that's part of the whole colonial process, is that, you know, since we fall under the thumb of colonialism and we are subject to the United States, they're dictating the policy and they're deciding what's going to be best for Puerto Rico and what's not. They still haven't created an emergency action plan for the next hurricane that's going to hit the island. When the next Category 5 hurricane hits the island, they still haven't put a plan in place. There was one time in particular when I was working in Guaynabo, in the mountains, not in the nice fancy area, and we came upon a neighborhood in Guaynabo, and we were ready to give everybody power. And there was just one house in particular that was damaged beyond belief, but he still managed to have a bit of a roof and somewhat of a home, but he had no standpipe, he had no meter, he was missing the main equipment that's needed to restore the electricity to him, and we were going to give the whole neighborhood some lights. So I went into his home, I looked around, and I'm thinking, well, what can I do for this man? He was about 70 years old, he had 2-3 dogs, and like I said, the majority of his house was blown away. So I couldn't leave the neighborhood without giving him lights. So what I decided to do is take a power cord. Now, if a power cord has about 5 or 6 different outlets, and it has a red light button that's basically like on and off, that works like a breaker. And what I did with the power cord was cut the end off the power cord that would basically plug into the wall. And I ran a line of electricity from the pole to this man's power cord in his house. I mounted it on the wall, and I sealed it and I protected it, and I connected it directly to the power cord. And he was able to plug in his refrigerator, his television, a lamp, a fan, anything that he needed. He would be able to access it simply with the use of the power cord. And so the power cord acted as basically like a breaker, almost like a meter for his house. And that was one of the best things, one of my best experiences in Puerto Rico was, to give this 70-year-old man who, 3/4 of his house was gone, able to restore light to him, along with everybody else. And it was a great feeling. It was really incredible.